Alice attended the trial. When the king shouted, "Summon the next witness," the White Rabbit checked his list and unexpectedly called out Alice's name. Upon hearing the White Rabbit's call, Alice immediately responded with, "Here." She had completely forgotten that she had grown tall during the recent commotion. She stood up hastily, accidentally overturning the jury box and sending the jurors tumbling onto the heads of the spectators below. Reminiscent of when she had knocked over the goldfish bowl a week ago, feeling extremely embarrassed, Alice quickly apologized, helping the jurors back to their places. The memory of the fishbowl incident still lingered in her mind, and she vaguely understood that if she didn't return the jurors to their positions immediately, something terrible might happen to them. At that moment, the king solemnly announced, "The trial is suspended until all the jurors are back in their seats." And he stared sternly at Alice. Alice looked at the jury box and realized that due to her carelessness, she had put the poor dormouse up there randomly. The little creature couldn't move and could only comically shake its tail. Alice promptly picked it up and set it straight. Alice thought that if nothing serious had happened, the dormouse could still play an important role like the other jurors. Once the jurors were seated and had found their boards and pencils, they immediately began working diligently, starting with recording the details of the recent mishap. The only exception was the lizard, which was too exhausted to do anything and just sat with its mouth open, gazing weakly at the ceiling. The king began, "What do you know about this case?" Alice replied, "I know nothing at all, nothing." She repeated, "I must tell the jurors that this is very important," while the jurors recorded these questions and answers on their boards. The White Rabbit suddenly interrupted, saying, "Your Majesty's meaning, of course, is not important." He spoke with the utmost respect while signaling to the king. The king hurriedly added, "Of course, what I meant was not important," then muttered to himself, "Important or not important, unimportant or important," as if he were reconsidering his words. Some jurors wrote important, while others wrote not important. Alice was very close to the jurors and could see every word they wrote on their boards. She thought it didn't really matter what they wrote. Then, the king, who had been writing something in his notebook, suddenly shouted, "Silence!" He then looked at his notebook and read aloud, "Rule 42, all persons more than a mile high must leave the courtroom." Everyone stared at Alice. She said, "I'm not even a mile high." The queen interjected, "She's nearly 2 miles tall." The king retorted, "That's enough. Anyway, I'm not leaving. Besides, it's not an official rule, you just made it up on the spot." The king said, "It's one of the oldest rules in the book." "In that case, it should be the first rule," Alice pointed out. The king turned pale and hastily closed his notebook, trembling as he whispered to the jurors, "Please consider your verdict, Your Majesty, we have found new evidence." The White Rabbit exclaimed, "What is it?" asked the queen. "I haven't opened it yet. But it appears to be a letter, written to someone," the White Rabbit replied, "but who could it be written to?"